Capital sins, a summary. Capital sins are related to original sin. That means, as a result of the original sin that we all inherit from Adam and Eve, we have these disordered tendencies within us. Tendencies, inclinations, or proclivities. And if we do not dominate these capital sins within us, then they will dominate us. And these capital sins, once we give in to them, they will turn into actual sins. These capital sins are gluttony, greed, lust, sloth, envy, anger, and pride. It's our duty in the spiritual exercises to meditate upon these, to pray for the gift of self-knowledge, so that we're keenly aware of these capital sins within us. What might be our kryptonite, our fatal flaw, our weakness. And as a result of this knowledge, we'll be able to use God's grace and our collaboration with God's grace to overcome these. Briefly, let's give the opposite virtue of these capital sins and pray that we practice the virtues. Capital sin of gluttony is a disordered desire to eat and drink. The opposite virtue is that of temperance, which would be the moderate use of food and drink. The capital sin of lust is a disordered desire for sexual pleasure. The opposite virtue is that of purity or chastity. Jesus says, "Blessed are the pure of heart, for they will see God." The capital sin of greed or avarice is a disordered desire for material riches and possessions. The opposite virtue is that of generosity, in which we seek to give. Ignatius in Annotation 5 gives us the word magnanimity. We have to learn that there's more joy in giving than in receiving. St. Paul says we should be giving with a generous heart and give with joy. And the capital sin of sloth or laziness is an inertia in the will, an inactivity in the will to do the good that we're called to carry out in our state of life. The opposite virtue to sloth would be diligence, hard work. In the spiritual realm, it would be apostolic zeal. Like the saints, we have a desire to save souls. John Bosco said, "Give me souls and take all the rest away." Capital sin of envy is, I feel sad because someone has something that they don't have, and I actually rejoice when something bad happens to them. How do we overcome envy? Envy, the opposite of envy, is that of charity, in which I have goodwill toward the progress of my brothers and sisters. And as St. Paul says, rejoice with those who rejoice, and weep with those who weep. Anger is I give in to rage, which is manifested by violence in words and in actions, in an unwillingness to forgive others. What is the opposite of anger? It is that of meekness. Meekness is not weakness, but rather meekness is powerful emotions that we have within us, but they're under control and they're directed toward the honor and glory of God and for the salvation of souls. Last but not least is the capital sin of pride. in which we become self-sufficient, self-reliant, autonomous, in which we want to do things without God. If you like it, to do our own thing. My way or the highway. Pride is overcome by the virtue of humility. And as we said in the prior talk, Jesus Christ and his life, his private life, his public life, his passion and death, and his presence in the Blessed Sacrament are great ways in which we can acquire the virtue of humility, as well as through humiliations and reading and meditating the lives of the saints. So my friends, within us, we have this certain spiritual schizophrenia. We have this battle within us. We have the good that we'd like to do, but we end up by doing the opposite. We have to rely more and more upon grace. Now let's turn to the Blessed Virgin Mary, who lived out these virtues to a sublime degree, that we would not be dominated by the capital sins and become slaves, but we would follow Jesus Christ. In this we'll experience the true liberty of the sons and daughters of God. Amen.